something that a lot of people think is that certain exercises need specific stretches to get better at them. Okay, so maybe you're like, I can't squat deep, and I know if I just do this one simple stretch, I'm going to be able to squat deeper almost instantly. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about that indeed. So getting better mobility. When we talk about getting better mobility, usually doing exercises similar to the exercise versus doing stretches for the exercise. Doing the exercise is going to actually help you build mobility and become better at that specific exercise. Okay, so I know that's a lot of kind of redundancy and bouncing all over the place. I hope to explain this a little bit better. But if you are trying to get better mobility at squats, if you want to get that deeper squat we just talked about, this is just an example, can be applied to any exercise. You'd be much better off, doing more squats versus doing a hamstring stretch, for example, or a quad stretch. You would be so much better off, better served, not only because you're building the movement pattern of a squat, but doing a squat in itself is more specific to the movement. And the more specific, or the more closer you can get to mimicking the movement you are trying to get better mobility at, the better overall mobility you are going to get. So instead of doing a hamstring stretch, for example, to try to get better mobility for a squat, you would likely be better off doing maybe like an overhead squat hold in the bottom position with a barbell, as deep as you can, simply holding that as long as possible. Okay, it's way more specific to a normal squat, the specific joint angles, etc. Certain stretches can help exercises, and this is especially true if somebody is very untrained. So if they're very sedentary, haven't worked out in a long period of time, these gentle mobility exercises can sometimes give people a good boost in their overall mobility, just because their joints haven't moved that much at all. So this novel bit of stimulus is going to help them just get generally more flexible, I should say, but more mobile in general. But the reason why that type of stretching helps them in that case get more mobile isn't because of the stretching, it's just because they're moving more generally. They would have had the exact same benefit if they just started trying to practice and implement more squats. But for some people, getting their foot in the door with doing some gentle, light exercise and light stretches when you first begin are going to be a good idea for you. You probably will get to a point where you maybe don't need to do them after a while. For example, you might start off squatting and think like, oh, I just need to loosen up my hamstrings or loosen up my quads and do some gentle stretches to begin with. Over time, your squat mobility is going to improve just by practicing that movement, where you might not even need to do those anymore to get into that deep squat position, which is a super good thing. And you should be very proud of yourself if you do get to that point, because a lot of people never will, because they don't realize that the more specific you are in your stretches, I should say more specific you are in your mobility, the better mobility you are going to get for that movement in itself. Let's use another example. Let's say you are not the best at pushing an object overhead, doing overhead press. Your shoulder mobility is not as good. So there are some exercises, like stretching exercises, that will help you, put your arm back behind your head a little bit better. But what's going to help you improve your mobility the most is potentially just doing the movement itself without literally any weight. Or maybe you're going to hold from a bar. So it's kind of a weighted stretch for your lats, where you are just holding yourself in this overhead position. Maybe you're just going to straight up hold a barbell overhead in that exact position. That is going to be a lot more helpful if you are doing that than just doing those static stretching. If you do those in addition to the static stretching, you probably will boost your overall mobility results a little bit quicker. But if you're talking about for time's sake, definitely do stuff more specific to your actual movement. Again, it helps get mobility proper and precise in those specific joint angles, which is exactly what we were trying to do to boost mobility in your exercises. So, like the video if that gave you some good value.